Minutes, as with all subsequent
Speaker,
speakers.
if that speech was made outside the House, I think it could fairly be described as hypocritical. I know we can't do it in here, but if it was, it would be, Mr Speaker. That is a member who, after being here for 18 months, has an entitlement of a redundancy of over $32,000. That is a member who, after a very short period of time in this House, has a personal entitlement to well over $30,000 worth of redundancy. Whether or not he runs at the next election. He could even retire at the next election, which would be a logical thing to do, and he would still get his redundancy money, Mr Speaker. And what he says is that the most vulnerable people in New Zealand should not be allowed a pittance. And I think, frankly, Mr Speaker, if there can be criticism of Darian Fenton's bill, it is that it doesn't go far enough. Because, Mr Speaker, the Public Advisory Group on Restructuring and Redundancy came out with a unanimous recommendation. Supported by Business New Zealand. Business New Zealand consulted widely with its members, and they decided that the government should consider the introduction of a statutory requirement for redundancy compensation and other entitlements incorporating the following features. 1, notice. 2, compensation based on the length of service. C, a maximum level of statutory compensation. This is what this does. It is doing what the employers about 2 years ago asked for. And why do they ask for it, Mr Speaker? Because they know that having stability and loyalty from their workers is an important part of the redundancy of the employment arrangement. They know that having some stickiness in the labour market, having people wanting to stay with an employer, having some sort of security if they stay there, there's likely to be a job going forward, and they're less likely to be fired if there's a redundancy arrangement, is something which is good. It means that the incentives are on the employer to train people properly, to provide them with decent equipment and to make them productive rather than making them redundant, as is far too often the case. Now we're not going to talk to Mr Hanare about how he left the trade union movement. That was a bit of a bottler on that occasion, a bit of a bottler, Mr Hanare. But I don't know if he got redundancy when he got the sack. When he left Parliament, he got $30,000 redundancy money, and he came back. Did he pay it back again? No, he didn't. Mr Speaker, this government said, the Prime Minister said that he would take the rough edges off the recession. He has for his mates. He gave Bill English a free house when he wasn't entitled to one. That's true. He's let Phil Heatley off when he cooked the books. But does he say to individual workers who are made redundant that they can have a minor redundancy? He says no. Mr Speaker, I think it is an outrage the way that this government hates low-income workers.
Point of order.
Speaker, the Speaker made reference to a member cooking the books, and I think that is well out of order, and I ask that he withdraw it.
Speaking to the point of order, Mr Speaker.
Speaking to the point of order, Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, the member who cooked the books is in the House. He didn't take offence. He is the one who pleaded guilty to putting in false claims.
I'm not asking for a withdrawal because I'm offended. I'm asking for a withdrawal because it is way out of line with Standing Order 116.
Well, there's 2 points here. Firstly, a point of order has been taken at the time offence was given. And the comments were made were quite some time back. It was not immediate. That's the first point I'd make to you. The second point I would make, and I accept that the member was looking for the standing order, but it should be at the time. It's very hard to rewind the tape and remember the exact words that were said. So that's why the standing orders, you do it immediately, so people can be very fresh in the mind the exact words which are said. The second thing is that I don't think cooking the book, it is against standing orders to accuse someone of breaking the law. Cooking the books is a step short of that. It is, and we come to a lot of other words we come to very close which are offensive and others which are not. This is a house of robust debate, and I invite Mr Mallard to continue.
Mr Speaker, working families are facing hard times. This government has a choice now to send a bill off to a select committee to hear what people think. They don't have to guarantee now that they'll support it at its later stages. All we want to know is that the government is prepared to listen to a wide view of people. It's not a big thing. We're not asking for a definite support for the later stages, but we're asking for a relatively lazy government to sit in a select committee, to listen, sit in a select committee and listen to the cases. Listen the way the employers did at the Public Advisory Committee and support this bill.
His time has expired. I call Jackie Blue.